喂，你今日飲咗未啊？
飲 orange juice？
青紅蘿蔔豬骨湯？
Coffee or tea or me？
飲橙汁？不如試下飲 Coffee Bubble Tea 啦。Welcome and thanks for joining us today on the Coffee Bubble Tea Podcast. I'm Joyce and I'll be your host today. I have with me here Colin, Tiffany, and Samson.
Hello.
I have a long introduction to the topic today, so I'll jump right into it. For years, my husband had warned us that we would move away from Toronto. And for years, I shut down those conversations with great consternation. But at some point, I slowly opened up to the idea of moving. To move closer to his parents in Montreal, to move so we could afford a home without needing to commute for longer than half an hour, to move for better work prospects. In many ways, to move to greener pastures, just as many of our immigrant parents chose to move to a more peaceful and safer place. Around August of last year, we chose a pre-construction home in Quebec, and we were told to expect it in October of this year. I figured that would give me enough time to mentally and emotionally prepare for a big move, away from my cherished friends and family, away from my pension-paying job, and away from the dear neighborhoods I grew up in. Unexpectedly, we received news from the builder this past April that the house could be ready by June. I immediately wrote back, "Do you mean June of this year or June of next year?" Turns out they'd actually worked ahead of schedule and the house could be ready as of June of this year. Having a pre-construction residence ready ahead of time was unheard of. I was shocked, I wasn't ready, and my whole body flooded with fear and uncertainty. My husband and I decided we could ask for more time, maybe August, instead of June, to take possession of our new home. A good friend of mine, knowing that I was going through the experience, shared a timely quote with me that transformed the way I felt about what was going on. The quote by Meister Eckhart goes like this. "And suddenly you just know. It's time to start something new and trust the magic of new beginnings." So I'm here today to ask you guys about your experience with new beginnings. Maybe they were sudden, maybe they were planned. Can you guys share an experience, whether it's new or old, big or small, where you'd gone through a new beginning?
I think I have two thoughts immediately when we're talking about new beginnings. One is from like a positive standpoint, and then one is from like a more negative standpoint. Mm-hmm. So maybe those aren't the words to use to describe it, but to me, it's like when we talk about new beginnings, like, you know, the first thought that comes to mind is like, why do you need a new beginning? Like, maybe is it because something has happened in your life or you need a new beginning maybe? Or sometimes like if a new beginning is really just a new beginning to something even better. So those are the kinds of things that come to mind when we talk about new beginnings. Yeah. I don't know how you guys.
Oh, well, have you been through a new beginning?
I think for me, when I went to university, like that was considered a new beginning for me. Mm-hmm. So I had a really hard time growing up, like from grade school to high school, just like fitting in and growing up with the same people all throughout those years. So naturally, I think as you kind of go through school like that with the same people, the same cohorts, all of that, you kind of like get molded into this particular role or like person, I guess. Like you're known as
like your identity kind of becomes set.
You're kind of like known as that person.
Yeah.
And since these people I've grown up with have always known me for at least like 10 plus years, I've always been kind of the more like sensitive one, like easily picked on. So I would cry often and I would be bullied quite often. So I'd be like picked on a lot. So that label kind of just stuck with me throughout those years. And it was next to impossible to kind of get out of that mold. Yeah. So when university rolled around, I was like, maybe this is kind of like the time when I can kind of grow out of that and maybe redefine myself a little bit. It's not a very long time, like 4 years and all that. And I think at the time I wasn't really thinking too much about it, but certainly it felt like a fresh start almost, like to kind of try and maybe figure yourself out a bit.
Did you put thought into like what kind of personality do I want to portray now?
Yeah, a little bit. I think since it was like a new start, like a new beginning, I think I was just trying to portray myself as someone who everybody could like, maybe doing things for them or
likable, friendly, helpful.
Yeah, like just trying to get out of that mold that I've been kind of cast by other people. I don't think necessarily that I ever grew out of that mold, but certainly I think it helped.
Yeah.
I think I'm still on that journey even today. And you know, it's definitely a process.
Yeah. Thanks, Colin.
因為我都諗起，即係 high school 嘅時候都有啲人係即係入同一個 university，and then 即係我哋兩個都係離開咗 high school 嗰個 mode 咧 ，the environment，the vibe，and we sort of became more better versions of ourselves.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess 可以話 better version 啊，or different.
More mature.
Yeah, we can actually talk.Because in high school 即係好多嘢 set 咗咧，係即係 these people usually don't mix, and these people are usually like that.
Yeah, the popular groups, the athletics, like the nerds.
係啦，但係入到大學咧，即係大家都乜都冇晒咁樣咧。Yeah, that's good.
我諗其實即係嚟加拿大讀書係最大嘅 changes 咯。都可以咁講，即係而家諗翻，你會覺得哇，我自己好叻啊！我自己係啊，即係你過嚟讀書，跟住即係嗰陣時中學，即係嚟到讀 high school，你即係第一你已經 culture shock 啦，跟住你又要同 homestay 嗰啲人，即係點樣去打好個關係？你去同學校，你去一間新嘅學校，你完全唔識人，你仲要 language 未必係好通嘅情況下，即係嗰個 big changes 其實即係我諗係即係to be honest，我覺得如果你而家大個咗再 go through 呢個 changes， 我覺得我未必得咯，因為我覺得係就係你細個嘅時候咧，你諗嘢冇咁複雜啊，或者你冇咁多所謂嘅人生經驗咧，你會覺得諗嘢都好簡單嘅，就係咁樣，即係咁咪讀書咯，啲人唔理我咁我咪即係或者我未識到新朋友啊，咁我咪就咁係咁讀書咯，我淨係知道讀書嘅啫嗰陣時咁樣，即係我就會覺得咁樣 OK， 但係如果你話同一件事而家發生過，我要去一個新嘅地方，點樣去再 explore 個你新嘅 friendship 又好，住嘅地方又好，我覺得會可能比以前更加辛苦，或者係嗰個。可唔可以用打擊咧？都未必係打擊嘅，即係或者我覺得會 go through 嘅嘢係比起以前會複雜咗咯。
都可以用打擊，因為 shock 噶嘛，即係你頭先都有講 cultural shock。
都係嘅，係。
咁
跟住再到high school 完咗之後，點樣入大學，亦都係自己住 dorm 啊嗰啲嘅時候，你就會覺得我其實我係唔中意住 dorm。因為我唔知你有冇住過，但我係唔中意住 dorm。我其實係好快，好似住咗2個月之後咧，我就係 move out 嘅。我 withdraw 咗from dorm，係因為我真係覺得我哋嗰1個月我都覺得唔中意咯。因為我諗我最唔中意嘅係佢哋做，即係佢哋有好多嗰啲 dorm 嘅活動。一開頭新學年咧，係咪叫 Frost Week 啊？如果我冇記錯，已經唔記咗個 term 先。哎呀！係啊，即係跟住佢哋會搞好多啲一齊嘅 gathering 啊，跟住 I'm not those kind of person that I wanna communicate with people that I don't know。即係我覺得好用力同佢哋溝通啊。
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy。
係啊，跟住我又介紹自己嗰啲，我覺得
gotta do that with everyone you meet。
係咯。
And you gotta explain yourself。
係啊，跟住佢哋有，即係你住得 dorm 嘅話，其實就係即係佢哋唔係 from local as in 即係唔係即係因為我係讀downtown 噶嘛大學，咁我個 dorm 咪喺 downtown 啦，咁即係佢哋讀得即係入得 dorm 通常都可能係 out of Toronto 嘅，即係喺出邊所謂嘅出邊入嚟多倫多讀嘅學生，佢係 from 啲 small town 嘅時候，你就覺得 我同佢哋點樣溝通咧？即係我覺得嗰種嘅又係 shock 打擊，其實亦都係好，我覺得我好攰咯。咁所以 that's why 我其實好快就已經 move away 咗from。
I'm hearing that there was a big cultural distance.
Yes.
And it just took a lot of emotional effort to keep bridging that distance.
Yeah.
That at some point it just wasn't worth it anymore.
係啊，即係你又會覺得我唔去嗰啲 gathering，唔去嗰啲 forest，你會邊個 left out 嘅咧？
Yeah.
但係你去自己又好攰，或者你係唔知點樣去同佢哋溝通啊，或者點樣嘅時候，你覺得does it worth it?
What I'm hearing is it wasn't easy to feel accepted or find a sense of belonging. Like that's kind of what I'm hearing from everyone here, that like in this move or in this transition from one stage to another, it wasn't always easy to find a place where you could belong. And I think, in thinking about my move, that's a huge thing. Like I grew up in Markham, Toronto, very diverse. Now I'm going to this small village in Quebec where like my daughter's going to grow up with like white Canadian people. And like right now down the hall, we have another mixed little girl that she plays with. And I wonder, like, is she going to feel that sense of belonging, or will she always just feel a little bit different from the others?
Yeah, and you mentioned, like, your husband told you about this, so he might feel more at home in Quebec.
Yeah, because he was born and raised in Montreal, so, like, I think maybe he assumes because he speaks French and he grew up there, but I think it's still going to be a change.
Yeah, and I can imagine you both adapting at different pace and not realizing that. Yeah.
That's a good point. Is that something you're thinking of from your own experience?
Yeah, actually, 係啦，即係 it was it was in the past when my girlfriend came over to study, and you know, I've been here for so long, and it was a new place for her. And I didn't realize it's 係啦，即係佢好多嘢唔適應，同埋佢喺呢度係冇 there's one other friend who was not in Toronto 咁樣 but I was feeling very at home 咁所以係啦 and not recognizing that itself it's a tension.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you work through that tension?
冇嗌下交啊嗰啲咯
Yeah. Is there an experience you want to share about a transition, a new beginning?
Not yet. 俾你直接問咧，我頭先喺度諗可以唔可以 dodge 到？喺度諗唔到，唔係即係咁，梗係啦，即係啱啱喺香港翻嚟，即係呢排喺香港翻嚟嘅人都係咁噶啦，係啦，但係又唔講到住啦，係。Yeah.
Is there one you can think of when you were younger?
細個其實我即係 everyone say that children adapt quicker. 但係我成日喺度估，即係可能我哋we're overlooking something 咁樣咁我細個係咯4年班過嚟，冇嘅，即係屋企決定點咪點咯，咁樣都係好 last minute，可能係1個月前到先 find out 噶嘛。
wow！
Yeah， 係冇乜傾噶。咁嗰個 moment 咧，我記得我有啲同學係 shock 過我嘅，即係 I just told them as a matter of fact，and then 係啦，即係啲朋友就。即係小學生嗰啲朋友啦，但係都有一個朋友好唔開心咁樣，係啦，又請我食糖啊咁樣。
So sweet.
Yeah， 咁都冇咩嗰陣時，係啦，即係嗰陣時咧就冇咩反應啦，唔知係，但係即係冇機會反應，還是係？冇人問我嘅感受係點啦，即係我唔係 I'm not blaming anyone, but now now knowing that people needs time or needs guidance to express themselves， 就會諗翻起啊嗰陣時，如果有人問我會點咧咁咯。係啦 ，whereas 即係嗰陣時見到 parents 啊啲 relatives 嚟到，大家就會冇乜心機嘅。係啦，或者我 older brother 佢都有 friends 嚟 send off， 咁樣就會就會有冇心機啲咯，即係真係即係 friends 嗰啲 send off 啊，我都唔記得係 hugs 啊，大家笑啊影相嗰啲咯。但係我就 just waiting for things to happen，連上飛機嘅 excitement 都唔係好知啊，係啦。
What you bring up in terms of the feelings of, you know, that the young child, it's assumed, oh, they're young, they're resilient, they'll adapt. You know, reminds me, I was only 14 months old when my parents and I immigrated to Canada. And at the time in Hong Kong, my mom's maternity leave was a paltry 6 weeks. And soon after that, my grandma and grandpa took over, like, caring for me. And when we left, again, I was just a baby, pre-verbal, didn't have any language, and suddenly you're whisked off. And the people who you spend your days with, I slept beside my grandpa every night. Those people are gone. And there's not a lot of explanation people would think to tell a baby. Like, oh, we're moving, you won't see it. Like, it's just like, oh, a baby's just a baby, right? And for years, I never really understood why I felt so awkward about goodbyes. Like, after second year in university, my housemates and I, we were all kind of moving in different directions. And I remember telling them, like, oh, maybe we'll still be friends. And my housemate was like, what are you talking about? Like, of course we'll still be friends. And I think that kind of highlighted to me, like, it's this sense that maybe because early on in one of my earliest childhood attachments, I suddenly had to deal with these loved people in my life who suddenly disappeared. And I had no language to process that, no one to explain it to me. And I think, yeah, like, now that we are older and we can make decisions about that move and, you know, we can say, you know, we recognize it's going to be a big challenge now. Do we still want to make that move? And if so, how are we going to do it well? So, you know, I don't know if there's other experiences you want to share.
咁你而家有冇開始 prepare 下啲 goodbyes 啊？ Yeah.
I drop it to, like, my daughter. So, like, my daughter, I do tell her, we're going to move. I've started telling my daughter, oh, when we move to Chelsea, like, you'll learn French and we'll live in a house and we'll be further away from, like, our family and our friends. And then she said, oh, but Amy and Lucy are coming too, right? Those are our neighbors.
Just
and
I had to explain,
you know, no, like, we'll make new friends. But yeah, like, it will be a challenge. Mm-hmm.
The way you make it sound like it's like, we almost seem like when we say goodbye, it's like, oh, bye.
Forever.
Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, forever.
Yeah.
How long is the drive?
About 5 hours.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's still definitely manageable. Like, we're telling everyone, come visit us. We'll visit you.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mean our friendships are over, but we do recognize things will be different.
But what about on a daily basis? What will you be missing the most?
Chinese food.
Okay.
Like,
都話開，都話繼續煲牛耳粥咯。
There's Uber Eats, you know.
No, not from Toronto. But no, I think just like, for example, on Thursday, my daughter woke up a little bit sick, and me and my husband looked at our schedules. We realized, like, it clashed. So I called my mom quickly, like, Mom, can we come over? And she said, yeah, of course. And, like, I drove up, spent the entire day there. And so that proximity to help is big. And also just, like, friendships. Just the pandemic's already been so hard on limiting how many people we can see or where we can see them, how often we can see them. And then to feel like, oh, now we're moving, and that those friendship links feel even more distant.
頭先變咗我問你問題好冇？你個 introduction 咧 is that warn you， 即係你唔係話 my husband told me, you said my husband warned me.
Yeah. I always so growing up I think I was more adventurous. I wanted to like move away, explore the world, see the world, live in a new place. But now that I'm older, I just want to stay close to what's familiar and the people who love me and the people I love too. So to leave again, just even thinking back to that 14-month-old self of mine where you left and suddenly boom, those connections were all gone. I'm having to remind myself it's not all over. You can still stay in touch. Those connections, that affection will still be there.
我諗係，即係咪真係關年紀事？即係有陣時，真係覺得細個去 accept 呢啲咁樣嘅 changes 係易過你而家大個。我覺得，即係同埋可能你細個，即係好似咁講，我 high school 3個月內搬咗3次，唔係，sorry 大學3個月內搬咗3次屋，我覺得唔覺得煩㗎。但係而家即係唔係，即係入面有啲係被逼啦，定要即係唔係唔煩，但係嗰種係你會覺得 OK 得。我搬咁樣啦，但係 handle 到，而家係覺得唔好搞我
A lot of work
即係如非必要，即係你真係唔好搞我咁樣咧，即係我諗係真係個人唔知咧，我自己我覺得即係個人大咗之後，成熟咗之後，佢點樣去 adapt 嗰啲 changes， 可能係冇比起細個咁 flexible。即係雖然大個，即係你長大咗應該要 be flexible on all the changes，but then inside you is not that way.
Oh, for me, I think age does matter. Like when I'm young, like I don't really think too much about any of this. I just kind of
好似冇咁多 concern
I don't
啊，
really
你冇
think
諗咁
about
多。
stuff. I don't think about stuff. So I mean, I think about stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like
你放心，我哋唔會話你冇用腦嘅。
yeah, exactly. What I mean is like I don't think really too much of like all the in-depth kind of meanings behind things and what those changes might mean to understand them completely. I think so. When I'm older, I'm more maybe like more logical, like in terms of thinking about things more thoroughly and trying to understand what the meaning behind things are, the consequences, those sorts of things, right? When you're young, you kind of just want to have fun, play, Your
priorities are different.
Yeah. You have other people kind of like doing them for you almost.
Yeah, 你頭先話 logical， 不過即係傾咗咁多次，我覺得 not just logical, but you're more open or honest with your own thoughts, I guess.
Yeah, I think I've gotten to the point where I've just kind of accepted, like who you are as a person a bit. Obviously, you're not perfect, and you won't be perfect. But I think the things that make you, as long as they're not like causing harm to other people, like that's you, right? And instead of trying to fit molds that society has for you, it's important to also kind of accept yourself a bit.
So for everyone, what advice would you have to offer me and others going through major transitions about how to go through a new beginning well?
我覺得真係你要清楚自己點解要 make 呢個 decision， 同埋啲原因咯。即係嘅，有陣時可能係真係有啲嘢你係唔可以去，即係冇原因去解釋嘅。但係我覺得你一定要。就算好細微嘅嘢到我隔離會有間超市嘅嗰個 change， 即係可能 for example 我搬屋咁樣，我唔想搬去嗰度㗎，但係可能迫於無奈，屋企人好點都好，我要逼去嗰個 area。你可能好細微到我 walking distance 有間 grocery store， 呢啲咁細微嘅嘢，即係去寫翻出嚟，點解你會做呢個 changes 嘅時候，我覺得係會幫到你去 overcome 成件事，容易啲咯。
I'll do that。
係，即係我覺得唔知 Joyce 可能係真係會好難嘅，我覺得，即係尤其是你媽媽帶住個女，你仲要即係你 take care 唔到自己嘅情緒或者係嗰個changes 嗰個壓力嘅時候，你仲要去擔心你個女嘅時候，我諗係即係要諗下即係點解你哋會做呢個決定咯，同埋係點解呢個決定做咗之後會帶嚟啲咩嘅benefits on your daughter or on yourself。唔知即係我覺得咁樣可能會好過啲 我咁樣講完之後，我喺度諗，我其實有冇咁樣做過咧？好似有嘅，即係我唔係嗰啲會寫出嚟，但係我會係 constantly 會諗嗰樣嘢嘅人咯。所以我覺得咁樣會覺得啊，你嘅生活覺得安樂啲，覺得舒服啲。
So what I'm hearing is like you're finding meaning and connecting it to your values about even though I might not have chosen this move, I can still find ways to appreciate it.
係。
其實早幾日咧，我喺度聽歌咧，即係唔係聽 Mirror 嗰啲啊，即係我聽好多。
Why do you have to bring that up?
你哋都識啊
Yeah, of course. But why do you have to bring that up? What does that have to do with this?
可能 I just wanted to bring that.
He has no interest.
收個彎去打賣廣告。
He has no interest in Mirror for those who are fans. Just letting you know.
係啊，咁我喺度聽緊，跟住我覺得真係好好聽，跟住我突然間喺度諗。其實係咪應該冇過嚟咧？咁樣咁就即係我諗好多人咧，即係問緊呢個問題嘅，即係咁嗱，即係有啲人係會誠實或者直接問呢個問題，問自己呢個問題。咁有啲人咧可能就唔敢問。咁我唔知邊樣好啲啦，即係因為真係好近嘅問題啊。咁即係我覺得有得傾，有機會傾啊，有俾到空間自己去 face 呢個問題係 it's good. It's much better. I guess 係啦，即係同埋即係你唔問呢個問題咧，或者唔去 try to answer it， 即係 even if the answer is okay。I'm officially regretting this decision，係啦，即係我真係後悔啦。咁點咧？咁就正面地，即係爽快地嘅後悔啦。我諗咁樣會舒服過有啲嘢喺裏面唔知，即係有啲 internalize 咗，變咗啲奇怪嘅 bitterness 苦澀，可能仲辛苦。係，我諗我唔係同你講嘅呢樣嘢，
佢同佢自己講。
yeah，
即係我諗都係嘅，即係冇話，即係好似 for example Samson 咁樣，即係我唔知，即係佢冇翻嚟加拿大，係咪代表佢會開心啲，佢 family 會好啲？其實唔知，冇人知啊。係啊，咁所以其實即係我覺得係，即係好似啲人好老土咁，活在當都唔係老土，其實係真實。你活在當下，你永遠淨係可以 look forward， 你唔可以 look backward。我如果冇過嚟，或者如果點咁樣，所以我覺得好似即係你都永遠，即係你就可以 look for some meaningful things that 會令到你開心啲咯。
Yeah, and what I'm hearing from Samson is like if you hate it.Be honest with yourself and not let it fester into bitterness and resentment.
Yeah， 係啦，即係或者可能諗到原來我 hate 乜嘢喎。
Right。
咁即係講真，多倫多咁大咁多生活嘅方法咧，係即係可以改變下嘅，我覺得。咁即係同埋諗過一次，即係點都揾一次。諗下啦，即係有啲人唔中意諗呢啲嘢咁，即係我又唔係覺得要成日係咁諗啦，但係點都揾次係諗咗佢啦。Yeah.
I think my advice won't be as philosophical as these two fine people.
I'm still curious to hear what you have to say, Colin.
So I think the advice I would give is to be ready to be open and flexible as much as you can. But actually, I was going to say, congrats on the move, first of all.
Well, it hasn't happened yet.
I know, but eventually it will happen, right? So congrats on that and best wishes to you and your family. I'm hoping things will go smooth. As much as possible. But I think being open and flexible during this kind of time is going to be something I would be thinking about a lot because sometimes we will almost beat ourselves up if we don't get everything right. And that's a time when, a lot of emotional and maybe even negative thoughts come out. Like, I think initially we might be thinking that, oh, it's a positive experience. It's going to be very good for us in terms of all the new opportunities we'll have, the new experiences, all those sorts of things. And then on the same side of the coin, you might be thinking, oh, it's going to be kind of scary, kind of nervous, kind of risky. Will things work out as we planned? What if something goes wrong? Who am I going to ask for help? Like, that kind of thing. I think any sort of new beginnings and new life changes like this, I would say that, just be open and flexible and don't beat yourself up too much if things don't go 100% the way that you may want it to go. I think embracing and accepting your fears is definitely something that is good to do, just so that it doesn't fester up and cause you to think more thoughts that may lead to other things, I guess. So that's what I would kind of say. Yeah.
我呢排好中意一句嘢就係 one step at a time。我就覺得煮到埋嚟咪食咯，即係太多嘢不能控制啊，所以
out of your control
係，所以就真係
make the best of your opportunities。
即係好似我哋俾好多人 advice 俾 Joyce 咁啊，即係係啊，即係都既然你哋 make 咗呢個 I mean 任何 decision 都係即係 make 咗嘅話，咁就 look forward one step at a time， 睇下會唔會有發生啲咩事。
I think knowing that you have people back home as support and friends that care about you is definitely also important.
And you can always come back.
She's not that far away.
Yes, I know, but then still, huh?
Whoa, okay.
And suddenly you just know. It's time to start something new and trust the magic of new beginnings. So thank you, Colin, Samson, Tiffany, for your advice, for your care. I'll really treasure it in my heart. And I'm hopeful that having this positive attitude and honesty will help me anticipate this big move with grace and peace. I'm sure many of us have gone through transitions, both smooth and sudden. And for our listeners, if you have any advice for me, please send it over. Thanks again for joining us today. Visit us on Instagram, ask questions, leave feedback, offer suggestions. We want to hear from you. Tune in to our next podcast for some more good times. Goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.